Avinash, why is cloud computing important to a business wanting to implement an enterprise mobility strategy?
If you look at the current trends in enterprise mobility, it looks moreover mobility is going to be the way of life. For every enterprise, we have a lot of information sitting there onto the internal networks, which needs to be accessed to a lot of executives and workers on the go, whether it is on the mobile or on the kind of tablet devices. But that information has to be available online, on time, and when they need it. So mobility is going to be the way there. And if you have the solutions which help you kind of reduce the financial stress onto implementing them, that is something that cloud computing can help you. So cloud computing is something that would increase the productivity or efficiency in terms of reducing that infrastructure cost or using those reusable software services, platform services, or infrastructure services, whatever is provided by those cloud computing providers.
So it sounds like a combination of a couple of things. One,
yes,
the smartphones being more powerful and being more pervasive. More and more people have them and just want them to do their work. They want to do their work where they are. But secondly, they want access to applications that are pulling information from a variety of different sources.
Yes.
And it needs to be directly available from the smartphone. You can't sort of run back to your desktop to get the other piece of information. So
yes,
the cloud infrastructure in some way helps facilitate this?
Yes, absolutely right. Moreover, if you look at the cloud computing solution nature, it's like you have three different components in it. You have a infrastructure cloud, you have a platform cloud, and you have some sort of software services cloud. So you need all of these at any given point of time, and nobody is expecting us to do heavy processing or logic to be implemented onto the device. So most of the work is getting done in the cloud. So that information is very much important when you are considering mobilizing your enterprise, because today's mobile smartphones, like number one reason, they are cheaper, they are faster, they are having ability to connect. So in this scenario, it makes sense that you consume that information onto the phones instead of doing any processing and let the cloud do the legwork.
Okay, well then more specifically, when is cloud computing needed for enterprise mobility and when is it not needed? Can you give a couple of short examples?
Actually, let's take a couple of examples which are like successful today. Salesforce.com is one of them.
Yes.
Salesforce.com has a lot of services that sales team can use it into the cloud. And a lot of this information is something which is like, yes, proprietary to the organization, but organizations can live with this data being in the cloud instead of getting this data onto your own devices, or like there are no risks with that data. So probably that is the best option, that you can go with somebody who is providing you these services. But in case, imagine you have kind of like healthcare solution in which like you want the data, the patient-specific data, the HIPAA regulations, FDA regulations, and kind of that thing where you don't want the data to be scattered, because generally what happens is that in the cloud computing, you have mostly the multi-sourcing scenarios. Like some of the database services would come from some vendor, some service, like some computational services would come from somebody else. Like say, let's take example of Google Health or Microsoft Health World. So these services, they give you the storage mechanism, but the computation logic and all that can be outsourced from somebody else. So the question here is that, can you live with that fragmentation of the data?
Yeah.
Is it making sense to your business? If yes, then yes, go for it. If it doesn't make sense, then you should not.
Avinash, looking into the future, how will cloud computing further impact enterprise mobility? What new capabilities will be possible on mobile devices?
Yes. Actually, like some of the data storage or access to information kind of scenarios in which like most of the enterprises are looking at various content management systems. So if you look at any ideal enterprise, they have more than one content management systems in place today.
Oh, yes.
And the employee or the executives, they are looking at the aggregation of that data. So that data has to be brought in from the cloud services onto your phone or onto your portable device, which you can carry with you. So that are the scenarios where it is very much needed. So let's imagine you have a very consumer-oriented application in which you want to store your data, personal files, images, videos into the cloud, and you want them to be accessible. May it be on your television, may it be on your smartphone or into your computer. So this is the place where you'll have to think through and find out like these are the areas which will really make sense to get into the cloud computing.
Where else will cloud computing have an impact on consumer applications?
Let's imagine I'm adding some information as a patient. I'm entering some information, storing it into the systems, and then that information is also accessible on my home TV, also accessible on my phone. So as a patient, if I am a senior person, it's very much needed if I can access it onto TV. If I am a caregiver or if I am a more tech-savvy patient, it makes sense for me to get it onto the smartphone.
That makes a lot of sense.
So the data which can be like, if you can aggregate it and present it the way that the client applications are looking for, it's much, much, much better.
Avinash, thank you very much for talking about enterprise mobility and cloud computing. It's quite interesting.
Thank you very much.